It almost sounds like a seashell. Put up to your ear. Listen to it. It just doesn't.
I hear literally nothing.
Magic.
I just hear an idiot saying words. Hello and welcome to This Is the Mac Mini M2. Should you buy it? Shouldn't you buy it? Let's find out.
Should we unbox it? They have a nice little eco-friendly package, so we're just gonna get a little nice little ASMR on this. So this, my friends, is an M2 Mac Mini. Specifically, this is the M2 Pro, although the only external difference between them is 2 versus 4 Thunderports. So Matt, who should buy the new Mac Mini? Should we even care about a mini Mac when I could get a Pro, a Studio, an
actually,
iMac?
I'd rather have no computer at all than the Mac Mini. Because I know that's what you're going to say, Jerry. If you're a content creator, this is the one to get. I have a hard time recommending most Windows PCs over this because price per performance, this thing is just gonna blow most systems out of the water.
For context, we've already done a video both on Denki as well as on the main show, which you can feel free to go check out if you want a little bit more information on the actual speeds and the feeds and that kind of stuff. Here's what you're getting. $600 for the base model Mac Mini. Now you may be like, 8 gigs of RAM, wah, wah, wah. But here's the thing, right? While I don't think 8 gigs of RAM is a great move, $600 for a Mac Mini is a really good deal considering the M2 is very powerful. These things are so small. It's so easy to like put it underneath your desk or anything like that.
I want to defend the indefensible for a second. I'm going to be the Apple shill for this one on here. But 8 gigs of RAM is not good.
Not good.
But it is significantly better on an Apple system that is optimized for this hardware configuration. 8 gigs goes a lot farther than 8 gig does on a Windows machine.
I personally think that 8 gigs of RAM is usable if you want to do a little bit more basic tasks. But if you want to buy a Mac Mini and, video edit or anything like that,
16
gigs of RAM. Yeah. Now, is it borderline egregious to charge $200 to go from $600 to $800 to add 16 gigs of RAM? Yes, but you can't upgrade the memory on these yourself, right? So you do need to get that from the factory. And I would argue that even though that $200 is a lot of money, an $800 Mac Mini with just 16 gigs of RAM is a perfectly competent machine. Like I've seen a lot of reviews of people saying like, oh, the base M2 is good for, light tasks and light video editing. And
which is
the Pro.
Absolutely
not true.
This is fully capable of editing 8K video at ease. Now I say who should buy this, and I said content creators.
Yep.
You notice I didn't say gamers because to say you can't game on a Mac is just incorrect. To say you can't fully game on a Mac, that is correct.
Where I think the Mac Mini shines is if you need, first of all, a system, like you said, for content creation. I think it's solid. But also if you just want a small, powerful, long-lasting desktop. If you look at the Apple ecosystem right now, obviously they're almost done with the transition from Intel to M1 and M2 based chips. The system that I constantly find myself irrationally in love with is the iMac. That design is so good looking, the colors, but the problem with the iMac, while it is a pretty solid system, is that it's getting a little old, right? Looking at the iMac today, we're filming this, in January of 2023, right as the Mac Minis are coming out. This system, for $600, essentially matches the configuration of the iMac, which is double the price or whatever. And yes, the iMac has a screen and a mouse and keyboard, but I will tell you, I would buy a Mac Mini, maybe throw 16 gigs of RAM in there, and you can buy yourself a nice 4K display for a couple $100, mouse, keyboard, still be far less. And the thing is, the Mac Mini is gonna be significantly more powerful. It's gonna have way more ports, especially than that base iMac, which I think just has 2 USB-C, and that's it, if I remember correctly. I'm so happy that they've updated this, because this is such a good little dude. Like, it's just a little guy.
It is actually my favorite product that Apple sells, hands down, as he sniffs this. I'm at a crossroads personally.
Yeah.
My PC,
you're looking for a system, yeah?
Yeah, my PC is on the fritz. I don't really use my PC all that often, mainly because I don't do a lot of PC stuff. A couple things that I really hate about my PC is even when it's quiet, it is screaming loud compared to, say, my MacBook. To talk about the small form factor PC that was on Denki, I guarantee that thing's pretty loud. Every small form factor system we have, the fan has to be pretty much on full blast.
I would say it's not loud.
Everything's
loud compared to silent. Yes, I agree with that.
So again, it's a different type of person who's gonna look for something like this. If you're a PC gamer who likes to have your PC on your desk in full RGB, showing it off as part of your desk setup, of course, nothing I can say is gonna sell you on this. But for me, I want the desk space. I want to have just enough power, which I get from this, and not have to deal with this massive tower either on the floor, on my desk, nothing. This is just hidden away underneath my monitor. That's it. For a lot of people, just get the base, get the 8 gig base, because it's already been discounted. At Adorama, it was $100 discounted.
$500 is wild.
It's no longer discounted, but the fact that we are already seeing this discount right now is wild on this. That's why I say for the price per performance at $500, unless you actually I need a gaming PC, I can't recommend this over any Windows thing. For $600 though, it's a little bit more of a conversation.
Matt, $600 for base Mac Mini M2. What about a used M1? Because for context, the M1 was $700, but the new base model undercuts that. So used pricing on the M1 Mac Minis has already fallen to about $500. It may go slightly lower.
At 500-ish bucks, I still say this one. Now, if the M1 drops to anywhere in the 400 range,
buy it.
Buy it. That's the one you should get to defend the indefensible.
Okay, you should stop doing that.
No, well, I want it is something to consider. I'm not saying that this is worth the upgrade.
Sure.
Because it's not.
Yep.
But a lot of times you're like, oh, I can go get an SSD for $20, $30. The internal speeds for these SSDs, these are top of the grade SSDs.
Yeah,
so it's not
7 gigabytes a second, of course.
Right. So that is something to consider when you're talking about these upgrades.
Honestly though, I would never upgrade the storage on any of these Mac Minis.
Probably
because
no.
The internal storage is enough, even if it's only 256. It's enough for regular stuff. Plug in a fast USB-C, $90 to add another terabyte. I would far rather do that.
Yeah,
and then you can.
I agree too.
I just want to give Apple some legitimate props here for selling at $600 the M2. And mind you, the M2, this is actually the higher end M2. So if you look at the MacBook Air, which also has the M2 chip, that has the lower end version, which I believe has 8 GPU cores.
Yes.
And it's $100 to jump up to the 10 core version. Well, that $600 Mac Mini, that has the 10 core GPU. That is the full enabled max spec M2, not Pro or whatever, but M2 for $600. Me as a content creator, when I was in my early days looking for my first couple of systems, to actually do editing and stuff on, if I could have bought a Mac Mini for $600 that has the power of this, it's a game changer, right? You could buy a base M2 Mac Mini, not upgraded at all. That system will last you for years, even editing 4K video and stuff, right? I know that you can go up to the Pro and the Max and the Ultra and Studios and all that kind of stuff, but if you're just talking about being able to accomplish the task that you have of doing proper 4K video editing, color correction, all that kind of stuff, these are more than capable of it. It's easy to get wrapped up in oh, I need the Pro and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, unless you care about the extra 15, 20 seconds on exports or whatever, we could throw away every single system in the office, grab a base Mac Mini, and we would be able to do everything just slightly slower. And that's not the case in the past.
Coming back around to what I say about the optimization, Final Cut is optimized to be run fine on 8 gigs. Safari works great, 8 gigs. Now, if you're using Chrome, if you're using third party, if you're using Premiere or whatever, your mileage may vary a little bit.
You need to be a little bit into the ecosystem, which is why I do say that 16 gigs, if you're going to do any upgrades, think about it, right?
But you 100% on 8 gigs could do all of this right now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. With these Mac Minis and with pretty much any Mac, in 5-6 years, this is going to be running just as well as the day you buy it.
I'm just happy that they've done it, right? They didn't have to cut the price. They could have left it $700. Everyone would have been totally fine.
At $700, I still think this is a pretty good deal.
But it's $600 now.
Is it you must buy at $700? No. At $600, I feel like we're gushing over this and
well, okay, yeah, let's bring it back. Matt, what don't you like about Mac Mini? Why shouldn't you buy it?
I kind of wish there was slightly more ports, which is
especially on the front.
Yeah, if they had done an SD card slot on the front, would have gone miles better, especially for a content creator.
Yep. You're probably just gonna have to buy some kind of dock dongle or something if you're using cards and whatnot.
This is where they're diluting their own line a little bit because they're not giving you those because they want the Mac Studio. They want you to buy the Mac Studio if you're a professional creator.
Yes.
But the Mac Studio makes sense if you are a professional, whereas the Mini is the entry level. But it's hard to even recommend the Studio when this exists because we kind of said in our last video, who needs the Mac Studio? Almost no one. Just because Marquez liked it and Marquez says I want to get it, that doesn't mean you at home, who's a YouTuber, are really going to benefit with the Studio over like a Mac Mini.
I will say there is one real argument to getting a Mac Studio, or honestly, there's one real argument about the way that Apple have positioned this, right? So if you look at the Apple desktop lineup, there's essentially three main systems. There's the M2 Mac Mini, which is at $600, the M2 Pro Mac Mini, which is at $1,300, and the Mac Studio, which is $2,000. As soon as you start upgrading any of these, especially when you get to like the Pro, you want to throw 32 gigs of RAM on this. You very quickly run up into the next thing, where if you start upgrading this thing, just buy the Studio. And if you really want to upgrade the main M2, like the base model, with anything more than like a RAM upgrade, you might as well just get this, because this already has the RAM, it has the SSD, has the better thing. So the biggest issue I think I have with it is that Apple feel like they're playing like with super thin margins to make sure that each of these products is distinct. It's so easy to build an M2 Mac Mini that costs more than the Pro, or it's so easy to make an M2 Pro that costs more than the Mac Studio, which is like, that's the point where I'm like, you should basically just buy base models, except maybe 16 gigs of RAM on the M2. Other than that, it gets really complicated on that, because the base models are by far the best deals when you actually consider the price to performance compared to the rest of the lineup.
I want to point out again, just for the sake of fairness, for this, is the RAM on here not upgradable because it's soldered on? That's not the whole story.
Well, I mean, it's literally on the chip.
It's right. It's unified memory. Yeah. It's not as nefarious as it used to be.
It's understandable.
Where it used to be, oh, it's literally just soldered onto the board. Is this the only small form factor PC out there? No, absolutely not. Is it the best one in this size? I think so, hands down. If you want a game, obviously get something Windows. But if you want something that's going to be a workhorse for you for years to come, for your creative endeavors, I think this is the one to get.
Can I go one step farther?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is the best Mac that Apple sell right now.
Absolutely. I don't disagree with you. Timothy's going to say, what about the MacBook? It's portable and it's...
The MacBook is the second best Mac. The MacBook Pro.
Let's talk about the price difference between the two of them.
If you look at the M2 Pro versus the 14-inch MacBook Pro, which is the same spec, really. It's just about the actual form factor. This is $700 cheaper. Now, mind you, that MacBook Pro has a battery and a keyboard, a trackpad, a terrific mini LED display. And obviously, if you want a portable machine, that's your move. But if you mostly just need something which is going to be stationary, sitting on your desk, this is it.
Can I offer an alternative? Yeah, if you need the portability, get this and find a used or refurbished M1 MacBook Air, and you have two systems. This is two systems for the same price as a MacBook Pro.
The only thing I'll say that is in favor of the MacBooks is that those 14-inch MacBooks specifically have been on real sale lately. Like, they're $2,000 for the base model, and the base model is completely fine, but they've been down to like $1,600 on sale. And I will say that laptop is obscenely good at $1,600. And if you look at, so we were looking at the M2 Pro versus the MacBook Pro. Like, the Mac Mini is now an absolutely undeniable value if you don't care about the portability, right? Like, obviously portability matters, but there's a real argument for like buying a older used like M1 system or something for much, much cheaper, and then having something that's a little bit more powerful that can just be stationary, right? This is a video I think that we're way too much in agreement on. I think we're just we like this thing way too much.
Normally we fight, but like
how do you argue with the Mac Mini? It's rare to have a computer achieve its intended function so well. The value is terrific. The performance is phenomenal. The size, the weight, there is so little to complain about with this. And it's coming from Apple, who usually charge you a real premium. But I can't argue, if you are interested in a small form factor desktop, the Mac Mini is incredibly good. And it is so rare for me to have a product that is just such an easy recommendation. After years in the wilderness, where the Mac felt like it was a side back burner kind of thing, where they're giving us like terrible keyboards and the things were too thin and they were overheating, blah, blah, blah. It feels so nice to have a lineup of multiple computers, which I can wholeheartedly say, hey, yeah, go buy that MacBook Pro. Hey, yeah, go buy this Mac Mini. Like, they're just terrific.
All of this, and they still fit the damn power supply in the unit. Let us know what you think about the M2. Let us know how you're not going to be buying one of those, because that seems to be what you guys take away from
man. I think even the most hardcore of Apple haters have to give some respect to this Mac Mini. Like, it's pretty good for $600, man.
Press F to pay respects in the comments. Like, subscribe, follow, and we'll catch you in the next one.